and we've got some news out of Moscow, Idaho. You know, of course, that is the city where those 4 college students were murdered. It was a mass murder. It was horrific. It was horrible. It took a while. They tracked down a suspect. They've arrested him. He will be tried for the murders. We know all about that. But what did we find out today? We found out they may very well present some form of an alibi for a defense in this case. Meaning, couldn't have been me. I wasn't there. I was over here. I wasn't here. No, I've got an alibi. So let's see. It all came out through some papers that were filed. A notice of defendant's response to state's alibi demand. So the state is saying, listen, if you've got an alibi, you need to let us know about it, right? So here's how the defendants responded to that. The accused killer defense team continues investigating and preparing his case. Evidence corroborating the accused killer's being at a location other than the King Road address will be disclosed pursuant to discovery and evidentiary rules as well as statutory requirements. It is anticipated this evidence may be offered by way of cross-examination of witnesses produced by the state as well as calling expert witnesses. All right. I get it. I mean, innocent people, for the most part, there might be a case where it might not exactly work that way, but innocent people accused of murder should have an alibi. Right? I think almost every one of them should have an alibi. I get suspicious when they don't. Like, if the murder took place here and you didn't do it, well, where were you? And just tell us where you were. And that way we can exclude you. I mean, that's what they do in the first half hour of the old Law and Order show, was they check out. Does his alibi check out? Does it check out? Well, let's take a look now at the accused mass murderer's alibi. According to the a timeline that was put together by the prosecution in their affidavits, Shanley Painter took a look at it. So let's see, does his alibi check out?
The probable cause affidavit in the case against the accused killer of 4 University of Idaho students pieces together the movements of the suspect vehicle and coordinating cell phone location data beginning in the early morning hours of November 13th. At 2:42 a.m., the affidavit alleges that Bryan Kohberger's phone places him likely at his apartment on the WSU campus where he was a PhD student studying and teaching criminology. At 2:44 a.m., Kohberger's vehicle and cell phone are on the move. Police say his white Hyundai Elantra is spotted on WSU surveillance cameras traveling north on Nevada Street at Stadium Way. According to the affidavit, it was here in this area of the WSU campus where surveillance video and Kohberger's cell phone placed him here around 2:47 a.m. According to the affidavit, he spent several minutes in this area where he allegedly turned off his cell phone before heading out of town toward Moscow, Idaho. By 2:53 a.m., Kohberger's white Hyundai Elantra is observed heading in the direction of Moscow, Idaho. At 3:26 a.m., the affidavit then places Kohberger's vehicle, now in the town of Moscow, in this residential neighborhood on Indian Hills Drive. This happens to be a road directly overlooking the Moscow Police Department. The Elantra is picked up on surveillance video moving west past the 700 block of Indian Hills. At 3:28 a.m., video shows the vehicle on Steiner Avenue at Highway 95 as it made its way towards the King Road neighborhood where the victims lived. Then from 3:29 a.m. to 4:20 a.m., the suspect vehicle, the white Hyundai Elantra, is observed multiple times on video passing by 1122 King Road during the alleged time of the murders before being seen on video speeding away on Walenta Drive. The probable cause affidavit states that the car likely exited the neighborhood at Palouse River Drive and Conestoga Drive, a road that eventually leads to Pullman, Washington. About 2 hours after he allegedly turned off his cell phone, police say Kohberger turned it back on here near Blaine, Idaho. It's about 10 to 15 minutes south of Moscow, a rural community off Highway 95, and it has its own cell tower. According to the affidavit, from 4:50 a.m. to 5:26 a.m., Kohberger's phone movements show him allegedly moving south towards Genesee, Idaho, and west towards Uniontown, Washington. Kohberger may have taken a well-known back road called Thorn Creek Road at this point in his route towards his apartment. These are all very isolated roads, but Thorn Creek Road is known to be even more desolate. Police allege Kohberger eventually made his drive back into Pullman, Washington from the quiet road of Johnson, where his vehicle was picked up on this security camera, the first time a camera captured his Hyundai after the murders were committed. By 5:30 a.m., police tracked the movements of Kohberger's cell phone and vehicle back to his apartment.
All right, and he's claiming an alibi. How is that going to work? How is that going to work? I mean, he's out pulling an all-nighter, and he's like just driving around, so I couldn't have done it. My alibi is I'm driving around where the murder's taking place in my white Elantra. Are they going to allege someone stole his car that night, borrowed his car that night, and he turned off his cell phone? Why? Let's bring in our think tank, figure out if there's any way he's going to try to present an alibi in this case. Joining us in Cleveland, Ohio, retired judge, former criminal prosecutor from Cuyahoga County, and judicial fellow at the National Judicial College. Judge Gail Byers is with us. Also joining us tonight in West Palm Beach, Florida, former police lieutenant and trial attorney Rick King. And in the ATL, Atlanta, Georgia, criminal defense attorney, former federal prosecutor, professor of law at Texas Southern University, Michael Sterling. We've got all the heavy hitters in tonight. Judge, does this potential alibi make any, like, how can you squeeze an alibi into all of that, or do you have to somehow say this video is like wrong, or someone stole his car? Like, how do you make an alibi out of this?
So, Vinny, what I'll tell you is that defense attorneys will create some of the most fantastic stories in an effort to defend their client's behavior. What I see here, interestingly enough, is seemingly merely an effort to comply with the rule that you say you may present an alibi, but you have to do so within this 10-day window. If you'll read clearly between the legalese of the filing, I don't think that the defense is actually saying that they, in fact, have an alibi. Perhaps for all the reasons you outlined, it seems to be very improbable and unlikely that they'll be able to actually stitch together a story that combats the very tight timeline that tracks the defendant's behavior and whereabouts during this time. And also, there's this pitfall of waiting to see perhaps what comes out during cross-examination in an effort to establish an alibi. We all know, and everybody here is a legal expert, we always know that we can't always predict what's going to happen in testimony. And to the extent that you're waiting or relying on testimony to help build this alibi, that is perhaps the worst strategy ever.
I just love the way you describe what defense attorneys do. Build an alibi, stitch it together. My favorite one is, what are they going to come up with? Woo! Here it is, folks. Rick, I don't know. Like, shouldn't, and this is, shouldn't an innocent person, like factually innocent, not one of those not guilty because they didn't prove it people, but one of those like factually innocent, like I didn't kill anyone, wouldn't almost every wrongly accused 1,000% innocent person actually have an alibi, though?
I mean, I think in some ways you would think that some people would have an alibi, but that's not always the case. First of all, I have to say that I am going to object to yours and the judge's characterization of a defense attorney stitching together excuses. No, I object. But here's what I would say, and I think the judge is actually, as usual, she's correct. There is a way that you can read between the lines of what they're saying in their pleading. And I think what they're suggesting is that they're hoping to weave in the expert and allow the expert
we were just stitching, now we're weaving.
I did that intentionally.
Oh, okay, good.
They were going to bring in the expert to possibly poke holes in the science or technology behind the tracking of the cell phone, and or is that my car? You know, things like that. I think
that's the only deal, right? That's the only way you can do this, because the jury, Michael, is going to see the videos. They're going to hear about the cell phone being turned off. Like, why do you turn off your phone in the middle of the night when you're in your car? They're going to have to say that either that's not his car, or I don't know. I don't know how you explain him driving through the neighborhood, or his car driving through the neighborhood.
Right. The question becomes, Vinny, is there some identifiable mark that exclusively makes that car belong to him? The one that they see is their driver's license plate. Are there other white Honda, cars similar to his that are owned by other people within this area? So you have to ask those very serious questions, and that's what defense attorneys do. You see evidence presented one way by the prosecution, but a good defense attorney, much like one of my favorite movies, My Cousin Vinny, can show you that you've got to seriously look at the evidence a different way. Did he turn off his cell phone, or did his cell phone die? Did he run out of a charge that night? So all of those serious questions have to be asked. And that's what the defense attorneys, I'm sure, plan to do. And if they do have some evidence, or their investigation is leading them to believe that there's the possibility that he was somewhere else, and that they know that they can cross-examine some witnesses, or there's some reason to raise doubt about the DNA, they have an obligation to their client to make those very serious arguments, because that's what defense attorneys do. They hold the prosecution to their burden of proof and give you an opportunity to look at the evidence in a different way.
You know, Judge, I always was a little bit jealous of criminal defense attorneys, not because of the beautiful pinky rings I practiced in New Jersey, but because they have access to their client and the truth, right? So they can know exactly what really happened, where he really was, what he was really doing. And prosecutors, we have to figure it out through the investigation.
You are so right. But also consider the fact that from a strategic standpoint, sometimes defense attorneys don't want to know everything. They want to know enough to defend the client that they have. And so sometimes being aware of some of those additional facts or details might actually work against their ability to be effective in getting their client acquitted. What I'd like to say, just in response to what was said before, I think, yes, there's a viable argument that maybe this wasn't the defendant's car. But what you have to appreciate is the tandemness of the cell phone and the vehicle moving together. And so if you argue that the car wasn't his and the car is stolen and somebody took it, then you have to also argue that the same thief took the phone. And so they took the phone, put it in the car, and they're literally charting this path together. And that is, again, where the challenge perhaps, or the difficulty for the defense attorney comes in arguing this alibi, or waiting for enough evidence to come out to, again, create an alibi, because the facts as they have currently been presented don't really bode well to support an alibi, but you never can tell.
Right. And what do you guys call it when you put the phone and the car together? Bad facts, right? We call those bad facts, Rick?
Those would be bad facts, yes.
Yeah, it's tough. But again, we need criminal defense attorneys. That's the only way the system works. You got to keep the prosecutors honest, because unfortunately what we're finding here, sometimes they aren't. And we know we call them out on the show when they aren't.